my peoples, what's up? Jason here with another Dice Tower review. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today I have for you Guildmaster. This one, the primary design was by Chris Anthony, brought to you by Good Games Publishing. It is a 2 to 4 player game. Y'all know I love my card play, plenty of card play. In this one, you'll be collecting adventurers on those cards, also building up your own set of resources that you could do more, so that you can enter into the fray. It is a central board in which you are going to be competing for very limited resources. Sometimes you go head to head, get some conflict resolution right there. You want to be able to position yourself to get those resources, get those advanced adventurers, fulfill contracts, and get fame. What else is there to do in a game like this to become the best Guildmaster in the land? Love to show you how it plays. So without further ado, let's go to the videotape. All right, welcome to Guildmaster. Here is a laid out play area. It's from 2 to 4 players. I actually have a 2-player game laid out. The difference is there are more cards available as you increase player count. So you would increase the section over here by 1 for 4 players. You'd have a couple more of these cards over here for 3 or 4 players. But this is what the board looks like generally. For the sake of economy of space, I've only laid out 1 player area. This is the kind of action set area, and this is your upgrades. Imagine 4 of these if you want to imagine a higher player count game. So one thing to notice right off the bat is that there are a lot of rules text. So we have quick start guide. So to get you started with a lot of diagrams and, kind of smallish font. And then you have the rule book, which has a lot of the same information, but blown out, rules, exceptions, more things going on. I think that just right away gives a lot of groups the impression, I counted this when I was teaching the game, that this is a really complex game. And it's not. At the end of the day, I think just knowing the theme and getting into the theme will give you half the battle right there. You're a guild master. You are collecting these characters, which are your guild. Over the course of rounds, you're going to be visiting these different spaces, and it's basically, imagine 3 different spaces. I'm going to be building. I'm going to be getting more people into my guild. And I'm going to be using those people to fulfill these adventures and contracts. That is such an easy thing to remember, and I think the core actions are simple enough. And then when you get into it, there's going to be a lot of depth there. But I think just getting the basic start of the game is relatively simple, probably simpler than the rule books kind of give that impression. So I've zoomed into the play area. As I said before, here are your starting cards, your guild. You're going to be acquiring more cards of different areas. So these are novice cards. And then you are going to be acquiring better cards. So adept, hero, and legendary. I'm focusing on this because there is quite the multicultural, multi-gender cast of characters over here. It definitely feels like I'm kind of playing in a World's Fair environment, which is highly unusual for these kind of adventure games. We know how adventure games are used to looking, so it is kind of nice to see different cultures represented, different areas of the world, very proud beings here. So just wanted to shout that out just for a second. In terms of the overall vibe of the guild, it really feels like you're pulling from a whole world of characters. All right, but let's get down to mechanisms, right? Exciting stuff. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to consult my guild upgrade chart, and it's going to tell me how much I can do. So then I can, you see these 4 orders. Right now, my guild upgrades says that I can only do 2 of these orders. So I'm going to do 1 and then 2. And if you see, these are kind of shaded in to indicate you can only do these at the beginning. Eventually, I'm going to buy upgrades for this, which I'll show in a second, which I can do more orders. But for now, I can only do 1 and 2. The mess hall also says I can also do 2 adventurers per team. So everybody starts with 4. And then I could say I want to send these 2 over to something. And then I could send these 2 over to something else. What are the somethings? As I said, there are 3 basic areas in the game. One of them is going to be builders. So I am going to do that and say that these 2 are going to build. This is hire an adventurer, so basically a draft. in order to prove my squad, and then go out on adventures, which is where I get gil money and fame, victory points and all that kind of thing. So let's say I'm going to take this character and put it on number 1. So actually, all of that happens in secret. You have this snazzy screen over here, has a lot of different rules. I mean, this game is just begging you to understand the different rules and what you can do, icon and all that kind of thing. So you are going to actually be doing it like this in secret, selecting your characters, calculating what goes where, all that kind of thing. If you're going to do one of the purchasing actions, which is the builders and the hire adventurers, then you would put down some gold, depending on how much you want to do, and that will represent your ability to carry out whatever mission. A couple of things to note about this phase. Every single player is doing the same exact thing. They have the same exact order board, and they're going for stuff. So it could happen, one of two things basically happen. One, you go to a place unopposed, you do the thing, and you're good. The other thing that could happen is that you can, two people could be going for the same thing at the same time, in which case there'll be some kind of contest, and I'll get to that in just a second. So the way that happens is these will be fulfilled in order. So everybody does their order 1, everybody does their order 2. If I have an opponent who also built in order 1, then that would be a contest. Or let's say I was unopposed for order 1, I could just do it and move on. All right, so let me show you what I mean. So then let's say I am the player and I am the only one who put a builder in order 1. So then that would be these characters and they just kind of go away. The important thing is this track over here. If I was unopposed, I would be able to buy builders slowly, one by one. So I'm playing a 2-player game, so it would actually start over here. So then the first builder would actually cost me 3. So let's say that I had just put in 6 gold. So then I would purchase 1 builder for 3, and then I would purchase another builder for 3, giving me 6, spending 6, giving me 2 builders, and I would be able to buy upgrades at this point. You saw the mess hall and you saw the other upgrades. So then like stables and that kind of thing. So then I'd be able to upgrade my guild that way. So the next player, whether it is, let's say that there's an order 2, someone put builders, they would have to pay this increased cost. So you have to remember that when you're playing your cards. If you put a builder order in order 2, remember to put in extra money because you're going to likely have to spend that extra money in order to do what you want to do. If there was a conflict on the in terms of the builders track, if 2 different players set themselves on the builders during their order 1 or during the same order number, there would be a contest. So that's where the guild members you play comes in very specifically. So then I would take the best stat. So in this particular case, it's 2 + 1, which is 3. Let's say I had my opponent had also come in. There you go, flip that around, which is a 3. There would be a roll off. So you just pick the best stat and you roll off on it. So then my character would roll. I would add that up. That's a pretty good roll. That's 12. The other character would roll. Ooh, even better roll, 14. And whoever wins would be able to initiate this first, and then the next player would be able to have access to the builders, but they pay the increased cost. And there's re-rolls and there's special power, so it's not just a straight up roll against each other, but there is a luck element involved in terms of the contest. The same thing could happen over here in the adventurers area. So we had the builders, and now we're at the adventurers. So let's say I had played, instead of going to the builders, I had played this A card. I could draft Magda. Unfortunately, these are the more powerful enemies. I need a adept in order to recruit up the ladder. So you're basically kind of building up slowly. You can't just kind of shotgun your way to the best character. You have to build up slowly. So there's going to be a lot of competition in this area for these adepts. So this is the second area. So this is the builders and this is the adventurers. I'm recruiting adventurers here. This would be the cost of the adventurer, at least the initial cost, the lowest bid. And it changes from round to round, so then I'd be doing that from round to round. So during full moons, it's one cost, and during crescent moons, it's another. All right, so that's a bid. as opposed to that kind of roll off, whoever bids the highest amount of money. So let's say I really wanted this adventure, I could bid 6, 7, 8, 9, even 10. 10 would be a terrible bid, too high. But if I really wanted to, I could try to outbid my opponent. Whoever has the highest bid, they spend all that gold, they get the character, and they also get the fame. And then I would move the fame track up there. Everything I do gets me fame. If there's a tie, it is that similar contested style, depending on who you brought to the dance. You would pick your stat, and then you would roll, and whoever had the highest roll would win. If you lose out on an adventure, there's a consolation prize, but I will get to that in just a second. What is the point of hiring adventurers and building up your big house full of stuff if you can't go out and do awesome stuff? This would be the third area. This is the contracts. As you can see, these are adventures: ambush, poachers, mediate, argument, all that kind of thing. This is where you get the gold and get the fame and kind of put your mark on whatever this fictional world is. Okay, so I have 2 characters that I've selected for this particular adventure. I put it on the 1, so I am going to have them ambush the poachers. So if I'm unopposed, once again, I would roll, and I'd roll those 4 dice. So 3 plus 1 is 4. I would hopefully hit 11. My particular guild, which is why I focused on the combat version, has a power that has a reroll power. So like I said, you're not out of luck in terms of mitigating those rolls. A lot of dice rolling in this game, but there's a lot of ways to mitigate it as well. So let's say I completed this adventure. I would acquire it. I'd acquire the fame, I'd acquire the gold, and whatever the bonus is right there, and discard that, and I can actually replace it with common, heroic, or legendary, depending on what I think I am ready for. So let's say I have a built-up a set of characters. I can start to pull from the heroic, and it has better rewards, and it has some better bonuses. It might also have some ongoing effects. So more stuff to keep track of, and of course legendary is the tops right there. But let's say that there was somebody else going for the contracts, and somebody else in the same order went for the same contract. That can be discussed beforehand, actually. So in that deliberation period, that phase 1, so to speak, the plotting phase, you can say to somebody who has good, say, combat, or like a stat you're aligned in, you could say, hey, let's go for it together. And so in that case, you would, if 2 people are going for it, you would reveal, you would kind of hold like this, and then you would reveal whether you are cooperating or whether you intend to compete. So you can negotiate that. You can say, let's do the cooperation thing and go for it together, split the rewards. Or you can say you're cooperating, but then show that you're competing. If you are competing, you go for it first at a penalty. But if you think you can sucker somebody into giving a cooperative role and then show the competitive one and then kind of like yank it out of them, that could be a really kind of munchkinly way to get what you want a little bit earlier. I mentioned before that there is a consolation prize. Let's say you lose out. Let's say that somebody else does the adventure and you're stuck with nothing. You always have your own set of private contracts. And throughout the game, you'll have times where you can draw another private contract. So this was your fallback. You can always do this whenever you lose out on something in the adventure. And this is so key to the game because you'll know what this is. This will be secret from everybody else. So if you think you're going to lose somewhere, let's say that it's a little bit further down the order track, or you don't feel good about the bid you're putting in or something like that, you want to be able to match the adventurers to your private contract as well as to whatever you're going for. So you have the opportunity to, let's say I missed out on that contract. Well, look at that. I can just go clear rubble. Do this less exciting thing, but I get the same rewards. Again, this is a fallback. You want to be able to plan so that you can do your main thing and also your fallback. Because if you can't do your fallback, there is a last action, which is called wander, which is get a little bit of gold. That action is terrible. So you absolutely want to coordinate your actions so that you're always doing something and not get stuck wandering. Each player is going to be doing all these things for a maximum 9 rounds. You can also play a short game if you want to go to 6 rounds. Everything is worth points. Everything that you do, you get the upgrades, which are worth 2 points. Contracts, worth points. Adventurers, worth points. Points, points, points. Point salad, definition of it. You will be traveling around, hopefully getting this many points. And then at the end of the game, most points wins. You can also play a short version by playing only 6 rounds. So that was Guildmaster at the table. Theme first, I love my theme. It's not like a thematic game in the sense of I didn't feel like a Guildmaster doing kind of adventure-y type stuff. It's a resource management game. A lot of the imaginative sense is going to come from, being in that world, being in a good aesthetic environment. Production-wise, this is a very, very well-produced game. The cards, I really appreciated the multicultural, multi-gender representation. It didn't feel like pandering. What it felt like was a very intentionally crafted set of heroes, pulling from archetypes that felt genuine, germane to my experience, and with filtered through, the usual stuff that we know, like Thief and Paladin, all this kind of stuff. I thought it was just really well rendered, well delivered, made me feel good to play at the table. Rulebook, that one's a little bit tough for me. 60 pages is a lot for what is essentially kind of a simple game. I know there was a lot in the overview that I did, the overview ended up being a little bit longer than another game of a similar weight, because I wanted to talk a little bit more about the little bits of interaction, which is where the complexity of the game comes, with these little bits of interaction, the little wrinkly pieces that you have to navigate in order to play well. But just learning the basic mechanism, assign your players, pick what you're going to do, resolve, do it again. Pick, resolve, do it again. That's a very simple rhythm to establish. And I felt like the rule books didn't give that impression. It has a quick start guide, but it's a bunch of pages. It's 14 pages, this thing, or 10 pages, double digit pages. And it didn't even give you the whole first game. It gave you the first round. So, okay, I've started the first round, but now I have to go to the bigger rule book in order to finish the game. With a quick start guide or quick start play, I would love to have seen kind of just a simpler version, play with these cards that have this symbol on it that represents kind of a simpler outlay, cards that don't have a lot of text on it, cards that don't, trigger combos or become good in the sense of combos. Just play with these simple cards. You'll get the sense of it. And then, when you're ready to go, boom, shuffle in more of the more complex cards and then go, and then have the quick start guide kind of walk you through that first full game. Here, I just felt like a lot of pages to get through a round, a lot of words to get through to get going at the table. I didn't know if the juice was worth the squeeze at that point. I feel like, just a basic rule book and then an FAQ afterwards to get me going. And then some sort of like a streamlined setup in the componentry, not necessarily in the rules, that would have done the trick. Your mileage may vary, of course. Some people love having big chunky rule books. Just want to give that a flag. So at the core, you're getting kind of two different experiences. You're getting that engine building and combo creation, and you're also getting that highly competitive exercise for spots, right? And so you are building stuff, and you need to kind of play things and acquire things in order to be able to get your combo going, be able to quick strike, get that thing. That thing will help you get the next thing. That chain is easy to break in a competitive game. Not every card is going to work with every layout. There are going to be certain cards that you're going to want in order to make your stuff go. And those are easy to lose in such a highly competitive environment. And the game is going to tell you, plan for that, put your resources there, make sure you get that, but you do that and then you miss out the next thing because you devoted so much time or resources going to the previous thing. So that's not a criticism. That's a thing to know. Right? In terms of those two separate things that the game is trying to do, where a lot of games are going to do it, separate those two things. Either it's a competitive, grab bag for the middle, or it's an engine builder and there's more of a multiplayer solitaire aspect to it. It's trying to put those two things together. Does it work? It depends on player count, I felt. Add 4 players, I tried to bring this game to 2 separate groups, and it was okay, but by the time we reached round 6 and I said, well, this is, if you wanted to play a smaller game, shorter game, we'll hit round 6. Everyone at the table's like, all right, I got it. I'm good. No one had acquired a legend card. No one had really gotten to the big, purchases. I didn't mention in the overview that you can buy bigger purchases for your guild, which represent kind of a capstone scoring thing. No one had gotten those. We just got it. There was so much in those little points of interaction that I mentioned earlier that just adds time. Every single space has a separate resolution, so that's mental bandwidth. Every single space has a different way in which it uses your money, bandwidth. Order 1, 2, 3, bandwidth. This person plays this way, this person plays that way, this person needs that. I remember that person needs that, bandwidth. Oh, this person needs to, is playing a competitive game. This person asks me to cooperate, bandwidth, bandwidth, bandwidth. Speaking of kind of like, having a streamlined time, there's always a difference between seeking into the strategy and just kind of assessing what's there. You're not even strategizing, you're just kind of like filling your brain. And there's also the private contract, setting yourself up so that you can fulfill private contracts if you don't get the thing that you want. So much to remember in a 4-player game, and it took a long time to get there. By round 6 of a streamlined game, we were like good. We're good. But at 2 players, that's such a good time. With this, it's one of those games. Take out all the guessing of and all the reading and all the negotiating and all the calculation. Streamline that out from the additional players. And I'll let me tell people that I'm a low player count player, so maybe take this with a grain of salt. But at 2. There was so much to love. All that extra stuff wasn't just up here. Because I only had one person to go back and forth on, I was able to get deeper. And I'm not just, trying to keep track of stuff. It felt natural in a low player count, and I was able to strategize. Here's my combo. Here's how they play. Here's what at an early part of the game, they're more likely to cooperate. Later in the game, it might be a little bit more heads up. They might betray me there. Or it felt so much richer. All those points of interaction became kind of a field for intimacy. It became a very intimate game at 2 players. And I really, really appreciated that. So, Guildmaster's putting 2 things together, that competition for spots and for resources in a engine building experience. Had a rough time at the high player count, had a much, much better time at a low player count. So this rating is going to be a difficult one for me because it's so varied. And at the end of the day, I'm going to land on kind of a middle spot, which is a 7 seal of approval. The seal of approval has a pretty significant asterisk, but the Dice Tower does not give seals with asterisks. You either get it or don't. And so I'm fairly comfortable because the 2-player was so rich. I'm going to keep on playing this game at 2-player. I'm going to, whoever my partner is, we're going to keep on going. We're going to learn about each other. We're going to learn different combos. We're going to learn the cards. I'm looking forward to that. At 4, I may never play this game again. But maybe your game group will like it. It's not a broken experience. I just, I felt there was too much going on. At 2, get that sink into what the combos are, the different things that you can do, and that was awesome. So thank you very much for watching this Dice Tower review. This is Jason reminding you, if you can change your mind, it can change the world. So until next time, later everybody.